15 seconds. Guidance is internal. 12, 11, 10, 9. Ignition sequence starts. 6, 5, 4, 3, 2, 1, 0. All engine running. Liftoff. We have a liftoff. 32 minutes past the hour. Liftoff on Apollo 11.
Grays and browns. It looks, at least on our monitor, sort of a brownish gray.
It appears to me as though it made a difference just sitting back in the... at the foot of the ladder, the limb footbeds are only depressed in the surface about 1 or 2 inches. Although the surface appears to be very, very fine-grained as you get close to it. It's almost like a powder. Ground mass is very fine. Yeah, I'm going to step off the limb now. One small step for man, one giant leap for mankind. It definitely gives a rosier or tanner tinge, especially when you look straight through it and not at an angle of it.
Roger.
Yeah, the crater that's in the center of the screen now is Webb. We'd be looking straight down on it at about 6 minutes before power descent. It has a relatively flat bottom to the crater, and you can see maybe 2 or 3 craters that are in the bottom of it. On the western wall, the wall that's now nearest to the camera, near the bottom of the screen, we can see a dimpled crater just on the outside. And then coming back towards the bottom of the screen and to the left, you can see
Esto es Versus en 66.6 Radio Conexión Paranormal, transmitiendo directamente en vivo desde el puerto de Veracruz para México y todo el mundo. Gracias por acompañarnos. Hola, ¿qué tal? Muy buenos días. Gracias por acompañarnos. Sean bienvenidos a una transmisión especial de Versus. Bueno, vamos a tratar de llevarles ahorita lo que es la audiencia WAP, allá en vivo en Estados Unidos. Ahorita te mando el link, Doc, claro que sí. Ahí en el Congreso, la del 13 de noviembre, vamos a ver qué nos dicen. Les aclaro, vamos a pasarla directo del canal del Congreso. Está en inglés, entonces, bueno, vamos a intentar buscarle aquí ahorita el entendimiento y todo, pero no se la pierdan porque está de lujo, va a estar muy buena. Así que ahorita vamos a enlazar. En cuanto empiecen, pues enlazamos, ¿no? Y también tendremos aquí, a ver, nuestro compañero, el doctor Bastida, va a entrar un ratito, a ver si Alex se puede desocupar en un ratito más. Entonces, bueno, pues ahorita vamos a comenzar, permítame tantito. No, porque vamos a estar comentando ahí, Doc, entonces vamos a estar viendo, comentando a ver de qué se trata. Y ahorita, por ejemplo, pues vamos a darle el link al Doc para que pues se agregue, se anexe. Si quieres, Doc, en lo que empieza esto, porque todavía está en mutis ahí en el Congreso. Entonces, pues vamos a poder platicar un ratito en lo que comienza. Todavía no está, aparentemente. Así que todavía no me aparece aquí. Así que, bueno, pues vamos a esperar tantito. Ya le mandamos el link al Doc y también ya se lo mandamos al Alex. Pero bueno, vamos a esperar a que comience en vivo. Mientras, pues mando saludos por ahí. ¿Quién anda por ahí? Mi querido chamán sinestésico, saludos. Saludos por ahí. Perdón porque tengo movimiento aquí, que mi gata anda moviendo la cámara y todo. Así que saludos, mi querido sinestésico. Hasta Colombia. Y bueno, pues vamos a ver ahorita cómo está esto del Congreso. Permítame un minutito. Ya les platicaré qué pasó el sábado, no pude transmitir. En un ratito más les platico qué ocurrió. Pero bueno, son cosas que pasan ahí medias raras. Saludos, Pati. Bienvenida, amiga. Pues todavía no comienza esta transmisión, así que, bueno, a ver si ahorita entra el Doc para cotorrear con él un ratito. Saludos, Pati, bienvenida. Ahorita en cuanto empiece, pues nos enlazamos al Congreso de Estados Unidos para esta audiencia WAP del 13 de noviembre, a ver qué nos dicen el día de hoy, a ver qué hay de novedades, como les decimos. Entonces, bueno, pues nos tratamos de hacer una transmisión especial el día de hoy, amigas, amigos, a ver qué sucede. Esperemos que no tengamos ningún problemita, pero bueno, pues ya estamos aquí. Doc, bienvenido, ¿cómo está, Doc? Muy buenos días. Adelante, Doc.
Buenos días a todos, ¿cómo están?
Bien,
Estaba
Doc, adelante.
desayunando, bueno, desayunando ya un poquito tarde, pero
Ya estamos
estoy
tomando un cafecito,
descansando,
Doc. Helado,
estoy descansando,
un
y
café
ahorita me hago
heladito.
uno, ahorita me voy a hacer uno, porque es un milagrazo, güey, o sea, que digas,
Mira, ahí se oyen los
tempranito,
hielitos.
mira, me hace que es un carajillo.
No, no tiene nada, Doc. Puro cafecito, capuchino, frappuccino, y pues listo hoy tempranito para ver el Congreso, a ver qué nos dice, ¿no, Doc? A ver qué noticias nuevas nos dan en el Congreso de Estados Unidos. ¿Tú qué
No,
opinas? ¿Más de lo mismo o nos van a decir algo, Doc?
no vamos a encontrar algo diferente a lo que ya nos han mencionado, sinceramente, creo que solamente va a ser una réplica de las demás sesiones. Em, Obviamente seguir apuntalando de que existe el fenómeno, pero sin dar más datos. ¿como para qué? No creo que el Congreso le interese y mucho menos que se vea de forma pública. Pero pues hay que escuchar siempre, hay que escuchar a ver qué nos dicen. Ojalá y encuentren algo que realmente valga la pena.
Pues sí, ojalá, Doc, te decía, hoy nos tomamos el día precisamente para ver la transmisión, pero dije, bueno, vamos a llevárselas a la gente, a nuestro público, a ver qué ocurre. No creo tener ningún problema, pues eso es algo, es una audiencia pública, así que pues vamos a pasarla directo del Congreso. Bueno, está en inglés, desafortunadamente, y pues vamos a tratar de pepenarle ahí lo que se pueda. Luego está muy rápido, así que
Pero,
está medio difícil, pero
pero en el caso de que esté complicada, por
adelante.
ejemplo, la transmisión, en el dado caso que esté complicada transmitirla, pues la vamos viendo, la vamos escuchando en
Así
otro
es.
formato y ya la comentamos aquí, lo que van diciendo.
Exactamente, Doc, tú sí sabes, Doc, pero la idea es traérselas en vivo para que, bueno, vean qué está pasando ahí, que, bueno, pues si están ahí en vivo, a ver si nos traen nuevas declaraciones, ¿no, Doc? Es lo que yo esperaría. La cuestión es, no sé si vaya a estar Luis Elizondo, del que ya hablamos la vez pasada, entonces está interesante el asunto, vamos a ver qué nos dicen, a ver si algo nos liberan diferente
A
a lo
ver,
que ya sabemos. Adelante,
me
Doc.
interesaría más que nada qué dirá la comunidad del fenómeno, sobre todo extranjeros, más que de forma local, obviamente como para ver qué es lo que nos van a decir o qué es la especulación que están teniendo ellos. ¿Por qué no o sea, la pregunta primero es qué es lo que van a decir, por qué lo van a decir y cuál es la razón por la que lo van a decir. Eso, de ahí partimos y sobre todo, o sea, yo quiero pensar que todos los que están aquí en el fenómeno están esperando algo relevante, brutal, casi que bajó el marcianito y nos dijo hola o casi que llegue a saludar. Va a ser complicado porque sigue siendo una asamblea,
Así
no
es.
todavía es de forma pública, o sea, generalizada, ni entra todavía dentro del presupuesto del gobierno como algo de seguridad nacional, entonces solamente son pláticas, pero esperemos
Garcia
que sea una
for
plática,
their
pero constructiva.
relentless drive to get answers on UAPs. They've been steadfast in demanding transparency on
Pues
the
parece
sightings
que ya
reported by
empezó.
military
Vamos a ver si la
pilots and
podemos
armed
aquí
forces. Their commitment to digging for
compartir
the
porque no
truth
se
is
escucha el audio.
exactly what this country needs to cut through the secrecy
Sí se
surrounding this
escucha,
issue.
A ver,
sí se
And
escucha,
many high-ranking individuals
sí,
in the military and
sí se
intelligence
escucha.
communities believe UAPs
Perfecto.
demand
sí,
greater
me muteo
attention,
para
and
escuchar.
thus the purpose for this hearing today. Former National Security Advisor H.R. McMaster said on Bill Maher's program that, quote, there are phenomena that have been witnessed by multiple people that are just inexplicable by the science available to us. Army Colonel Carl Nell, a member of the federal government UAP task force, said at a conference this past May that non-human intelligence exists. Non-human intelligence has been interacting with humanity. This interaction is not new, and it's been ongoing, and there are unelected people in the government that are aware of that. But UAPs remain a controversial topic. I'm not going to name names, but there are certain individuals who didn't want this hearing to happen because they feared what might be disclosed. But we stood firm. No amount of outside pressure would ever keep me from pursuing a subject to ground, come hell or high water. On that score, I want to thank our witnesses for being here. We have before us a panel of individuals accomplished in the military, in civilian government, in science, and in journalism. Some of the testimony you will hear them deliver today does not reflect well on influential individuals and agencies within the U.S. federal government and perhaps some of our contractors. It's never easy to present such information publicly. So I appreciate our witnesses voluntarily agreeing to being here today. This hearing is intended to help Congress and the American people to learn the extent of the programs and activities our government has engaged in with respect to UAPs and what knowledge it has yielded. This includes, of course, any knowledge of extraterrestrial life or technology of non-human origin. if government-funded research on UAPs has not yielded any useful knowledge, we also need to know those facts. Taxpayers deserve to know how much has it been invested, how much has been spent. They shouldn't be kept in the dark to spare the Pentagon a little bit of embarrassment. The reality is, despite their enormous taxpayer-funded budgets, the transparency of the Defense Department and the intelligence community have long been abysmal. The Pentagon has failed 6 consecutive audits. In fact, it's never actually passed one. Adding to this is a runaway overclassification of documents and materials, a reluctance to declassify materials when appropriate, and at times an outright refusal to share critical information with Congress. In short, it's not a track record that instills trust. So Congress has tried in recent years to lift the veil and find out if information about UAPs is being withheld, not only from the American public, but also from their elected representatives in Congress. Part of the transparency effort was legislation created in the Pentagon, the All-Domain Anomaly Resolution Office, or AARO, but the new office is struggling to get its footing. A recent statutorily required report from AARO, intended to illuminate the government's historic assessment of UAPs, was heavily criticized by those seeking UAP transparency. The report has stoked suspicions AARO is unable, or perhaps unwilling, to bring forward the truth about the government's activities concerning UAPs. I'm disturbed that AARO itself lacks transparency. Even its budget is kept from the public. So if there is no there, then why are we spending money on it, and by how much? Why the secrecy if it's really no big deal and there's nothing there? Why hide it from the American people? Because I'm not a mathematician, but I can tell you that doesn't add up. I expect some of our witnesses to share their views on that AARO report. We will also hear from the witnesses today allegations of UAP-related misinformation and disinformation by government officials, of which they are personally aware and directly experienced. And we will hear testimony today concerning recent revelations about a purportedly secret UAP program whose existence and findings may have been improperly withheld from Congress. But before we get to the witnesses, we're going to have a few more opening statements from our colleagues. And one thing I wanted to add at the end of my closing statement is there is a document that will be entered into the congressional record today. Mr. Tim Burchett from Tennessee has this document, and we just distributed it to every member up here on the dais of this document.
Bueno, aquí está diciendo de que por qué el secretismo, ¿no? Que la gente merece saber
Pentagon about immaculate
que por qué se
constellation
está gastando
that
tanto
Michael
dinero, por qué tanta
Schellenberger
inversión, ¿no?
delivered
Y
to
cuál es el
Congress
secretismo,
today.
¿no? En
So
general.
thank you, Mr. Schellenberger, for this information. We are all reading it in real time now, and Mr. Burchett will enter it into the record. But 12 pages about this unacknowledged special access program that your government says does not exist. So with that, I would acknowledge my colleagues, Mr. Garcia. I want to say, first of all, to Mr. Connolly, who cannot be here today, the ranking member on my subcommittee on cybersecurity, I want to say that I was greatly saddened to hear about the recent news of Mr. Connolly's cancer diagnosis. And I want to convey to him and to all of our colleagues, we wish our very best to you and a full and speedy recovery. And with that, I would acknowledge Mr. Garcia for 5 minutes.
Thank you. Thank you very much, Chairwoman. And I want to thank the Chairwoman and the Chairman both for their continued support and really treating this this discussion and these hearings in a way that's bipartisan. I think one thing that's very important for all of us that are interested in the conversation around UAPs is that this is an area that both Republicans and Democrats, where we may disagree in a lot of other spaces, this is an area where bipartisanship is really important. And in fact, I would add it's critical that we all continue to work together in a way that moves forward with the truth and important disclosure. So we're here to have a bipartisan and serious conversation, I believe, about our national security. We should always ground these conversations in facts, evidence, and the data in front of us.
Que demócratas y
I want to note that
republicanos
we
puedan
have
trabajar juntos
our witnesses
para
here. I
revelar
want to
esta
thank you all for
información.
being here, and note that also amongst you have folks that have also served us in our military. And I know that for many of you, this has been a difficult process, but I'm very grateful to have you with us today, and thank you for joining us. I also want to note that today's hearing builds on a quite, I think, also historic public hearing that we had many months ago that Mr. Grothman and others helped lead in this very same hearing room, where I believe we began a really important public conversation
Sé que el
about
evento de hoy es
UAPs. So I want to
histórico,
thank him for that, and I especially want to thank
una continuación de los
Chairwoman Mace for her
anteriores.
continued advocacy on this topic. I also want to start with some facts. We know that there
Acerca
are
del
objects and
fenómeno
phenomena
UAP.
observed in our airspace, as your witnesses will testify, and also possibly in our oceans. In many cases, we don't know what they are, and this is, of course, why we're discussing UAPs. Now, the All-Domain Anomaly Resolution Office, AARO, has reported hundreds of UAPs that remain, quote, uncharacterized and unattributed, and which, quote, appear to have demonstrated unusual flight characteristics or performance capabilities